You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku Enters Princess Bride? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hector Flores on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Izuku simply walked out of the room, knowing full well what they said but didn't let it show that it affected him at all. His quirk allowed him to remain as calm as if nothing major happened. The idiot can spout all the stupid nonsense he wants. To Izuku it was no different than a person farting in a classroom. It sure stinks, but given enough time it would have as much impact. The son of the dread pirate Roberts can't let himself be influenced by such stupid and juvenile comments, so he merely walked over to the principal's office and simply told the man what had happened. Just because he didn't let his emotions go out of control and go off and beat the idiot for what he said, didn't mean that he could stand by and watch him do something like this without paying the price for it. Walk softly, keep a level head, and let your actions speak for themselves. He walked over to the cafeteria where he actually helped several students with their food as they all walked over to their tables. Hey man, there is no freaking way that you don't have a quirk. You were carrying all that food over here like it is nothing, and due to my quirk I sometimes have a hard time just carrying my food, so I know it was no small amount, so what gives? You got a strength or empowerment quirk, don't you? Izuku looked at his classmate and simply was eating his food as he listened to what his classmate just said. Honestly, no, I don't have a quirk. My strength comes from years of physical training I have done. Anyone can have this strength if they put in the hours in training, so you want to be strong like this, hit the gym, and start lifting some metal. I do every week. To which one guy calls this BS. If he was so strong, why didn't he beat up the guys that ridicule him and make fun of him? As the class day ended, Izuku simply looked at the guy who said that and said that the reason he doesn't pick a fight is that that would be beneath him. Besides, who would that benefit? As he walked out of his school after he placed his school shoes in his locker, and got ready to go back home, someone threw a billard ball at him, which Izuku caught like it was nothing, and he looked at it before he looked at the shocked look on the face of the guy who threw that at him. Hey, I needed to replace this ball, thanks. I was going to buy a new cue ball, I accidentally broke my last one a week ago. He began to shine the cue ball as he walked away with the guy not believing what he saw. Everyone knew he had a quirk that could end up making him as good as a professional baseball pitcher, but Izuku caught that cue ball like it was nothing at all. The guy began to wonder how will the person who told him to do that react when he learns about this. As Izuku walked towards his home he could hear some strange muttering and almost like a man was talking with a mouthful of some liquid. Look, I really don't have time to mess with you, I got to clean the garage and the storage closet back home, so stop with the creepy stalker bit, and come on out. I've been hearing you mutter, not to mention I can smell your fear. That is when a great deal of sludge began to come out of the storm drain and out of sewage grates and began to form into the mass of a large lump. Look kid, I am sorry, but I simply didn't know he would be in town. I really hate to do this to you, but I am going to need your body. I needed to get away from that guy. If you don't resist, I promise to make this as painless as I can. Izuku felt like the villain whose body was the sludge that he saw wrapped around his body. This is when Izuku told him it was a bad idea to do that. Before too long he tried to force his mouth open to enter his body, but something that the sludge villain didn't realize is that he was not able to move him at all. He closed his mouth shut and no matter how the sludge villain tried to get him to open it, he simply didn't. Out of nowhere the body of Izuku began to feel hotter and hotter, to the point that moisture began to evaporate from the sludge, and the villain was in severe pain. He wondered how the hell was this happening. The kid was so young, he was probably a high schooler. Pro heroes have a tough time against him, but this kid is causing him pain and he is not even throwing a punch. That is when what the sludge villain feared most appeared jumping out of the sewers. Have no fear. Why? Because I am here. The crowd who saw this screamed the hero's name, All Might. With a clap of his hand, He caused a shock of wind pressure that the sludge was blown clean off Izuku, and without wasting another second he scooped up the villain and placed him inside a nearby abandoned soda bottle. He closed the bottle and placed it in his breath pocket. Well, now that you are safe, please excuse me while I really need to go and deliver this villain to the proper authorities. As soon as he jumped, he found himself that someone was clinging onto his waist and slowly climbed up till he was sitting on his shoulder like some parrot, like he was a bird on the shoulder of an old pirate drawing. Why are you there? And when did you get on me? You are not safe up there. Izuku merely laughed and said he needed to go with him so that he can give a statement of what happened to the proper authorities, and besides, he doesn't get enough time to spend with him since he has been avoiding and missing all his birthdays. As the two landed on a nearby roof, All Might asked Izuku what does he mean by that? And why is he being so familiar with him? All Might looked at Izuku, who couldn't help but laugh. Look, I know about your time limit due to that injury, no biggie. How do I know about you? Simple, you are my godfather, for crying out loud. How wouldn't I know about you? If I didn't remember this much, Granny Nana would be really disappointed in me. That is when All Might began to change and his body became skinner, weaker, almost like he had been starved most of his life. So you know who I am, and since you know I am your godfather, you know my name and everything, including about my quirk and everything. Which reminds me, why did you jump on me and end up here with me? Izuku told him again to make a statement with the proper authorities so they can enter that into the record once he turns over the villain he stuffed in that soda bottle. I do hope that you close the lid on that bottle tight. The last thing we need is that during this little jump that he spilled somewhere or worse. Toshinori looked at him and began to shake his head as he told him he has been doing this since before he was born, that there was no reason at all for him to be worried about that bottle. Instead, he asked Izuku if he knew the truth about his family and everything, to which Izuku told him he did, but just to make sure he asked Toshinori that if he could check the bottle, just to make sure, cause Izuku is getting this really bad feeling about it. For the last time, I know what I am doing, but if it will make you feel any better, fine, let me show you the bottle, might even get to say goodbye to the villain before I turned him in. As he put his hands in his pockets, he soon had this look of utter shock as he kept looking in his breath pocket, which more than likely had a major hole in the pocket. He had the feeling that the bottle fell and he didn't like what could happen if the bottle busted open. As Toshinori was trying to figure out where the bottle dropped, Izuku heard a series of explosions going off, and he had the single worst feeling that these explosions sounded an awful lot like the sounds that happen when Bakugou uses her quirk. Since she used her quirk to bully Izuku ever since he had that quirk test and was declared to be quirkless. What had been a great friendship, the minute she heard he didn't have a quirk she immediately began to treat him horribly, always saying that he was either wasted space or he was worse than a bug. The fact is, the minute he realized that someone was in danger, he threw caution into the wind, knowing that Toshinori couldn't do a thing, because if he did, and he was exposed, it would cause a major problem. He immediately ran towards where the explosions were happening, and much to his shock other pro-heroes were in fact near the area, but they did not even move to try and rescue the victim from the slimy clutches of the villain. He began by first taking the cue ball he was carrying and throwing it as hard as he could. The throw causes wind pressure to change, causing much to the surprise of the heroes and the villain a small sonic boom, which distracted the villain long enough for Izuku to grab the hand of Bakugou and immediately pull her free and away from the sludge villain. The villain, of course, realizing he lost his hostage or the victim, was furious. The sludge villain tried to capture Izuku once more, and almost like straight out of the nightmares of the villain, All Might showed up again, and this time, since there are so many pro-heroes around, the authorities came to find out what was going on as All Might once again knock out the villain using his hands, clapping them so hard that a gust of wind caused the villain to once again become dizzy. But this time he sent an uppercut so hard that it caused the clouds to part, changing the weather. Capturing the villain in a much more secure bottle, it was finally taken into custody. The other pro-heroes decided to lecture Izuku for using his quirk without a license until Izuku mentioned that he didn't have a quirk, to which the pro-heroes said that was BS. There is no way that anyone without a quirk can cause a sonic boom by throwing a billiard ball, to which Izuku said that he has trained most of his life to become strong enough, so eventually, he could try and enter UA. Another hero wanted to call him reckless, but that was shut down by Izuku, saying that had the pro-heroes present done something to help his childhood friend, then maybe, just maybe he wouldn't have felt that if he didn't do something Bakugou would have been killed. This made the pro-heroes that were doing this realize that this was their fault, and yet they are doing this to a young man who risked his life to save someone, no matter if they are childhood friends. Bakugou just marched up to Izuku and glared at him. I would have defeated that sludge puddle even without you getting in the way, probably would have done it sooner had you not been getting in my way. What were you thinking, you Deku? You don't have a Moda FING quirk, you brainless moron. She then couldn't contain her anger any longer and flat out slapped him so hard it shocked some people when they saw her. Don't this think I owe you for nothing, you nerd. Again I am telling you, you better get this in your empty head. Don't even think of applying to UA, because if we have to fight to get in, I will murder your ass. Izuku didn't care but stayed to hear her entire rant before he began to walk away, seeing the depowered version of All Might wait for him. One of the reporters asked him who was he and where were they headed. Izuku smiled at the reporter, which made her blush for some strange reason. Oh, he is my godfather. See, I often go to that beach that has been used as a dump to try and clean it up. My godfather sometimes goes there to make sure I don't do something and end up getting hurt. Now if you will excuse me, we got a whole lot to clean on that beach. Have a nice day. As Izuku walked away they began to whisper with each other, Toshinori saying that was a good idea, and asked him what gave him the impression that he wanted to help him train his body. Izuku simply said that he wasn't lying, he often goes to that beach to try and clean it up. After all this trash is polluting the ocean. What sort of a pirate wouldn't want to clean it up to protect the very waters that were so precious to him? As they began to walk towards the beach that was practically littered with so many abandoned pieces of furniture, cars, and even major appliances, Toshinori asked him what exactly does he do with all the stuff after he sets them aside and sorts them. Izuku said that most of the stuff is going to get recycled, so he gets some money from getting this stuff to the right people. The appliances, some of them can actually be repaired using parts from other appliances, and the car to tear them up and use them as punching bags to make it easier to recycle. Toshinori was impressed at what he was seeing. This beach had been used as an illegal dump by the people in the city. They left old furniture, old appliances, and even old cars, but they simply never bothered to dispose of them in the right way, either because it was too inconvenient for them or because it would cost them money to do so the right way. Instead, the beach became an almost unofficial dump. The city didn't do a thing about it. Some people think it is because the city had bigger problems such as crimes committed by quirk users, who were all labeled villains, but many heroes did not do things unless they gained something in return. They wanted fame and recognition from the people by being praised in the local news programs and newspapers. They wanted to be sponsored or receive large monetary awards for their supposed acts of heroism. Nobody was going to make a report or write an article about a hero that spends free time cleaning what essentially is a junkyard and a dump all rolled into one. The more sensational or extravagant thing that was reported, more issues of the paper would sell, and the news program would gain better ratings and higher number of viewers, which means they can expose them to even more television ads. It was sad, but the ones reporting the acts of the heroes were very similar to the heroes that also wanted one thing first and foremost: money. So the place at the beach was never dealt with. Until Izuku's family moved to the city, and ever since he was a teen Izuku had been working to do everything he could to clean and sort all the stuff that was dumped on the beach. Most of the appliances they use actually were stuff that Izuku once looked at how to fix, used parts from other similar appliances to fix them. Breaking down cars, and selling the materials as materials to be recycled was actually a good source of income. It was always funny to Izuku how much money he made doing this, and it was hilarious to him that none of the heroes ever realized how much they were missing out on. Toshinori knew how bad things were on that beach, but what he saw was something he never expected. Appliances, furniture, and cars were neatly sorted into sections and even labeled, some as recycled materials, furniture pickup, and last but not least appliances. Izuku managed to get in touch with the local welfare shelters and other places that sold stuff at low prices to poor people, and they sometimes came and picked up the furniture that Izuku repaired. The recycling companies came and picked up the materials Izuku managed to sort from the abandoned cars and trucks, and the appliances would go to low-income housing complexes that bought them to make life easier for their poor tenants. It was amazing to see Izuku, a normal young man, sort all the new stuff that was dumped, and quicker than he could imagine getting ready to deal with the stuff that was repaired in a matter of minutes with the precision and efficiency of an expert. The cars and stuff that could not be repaired were taken to one side, and Toshinori saw Izuku bash them to pieces with his bare hands and destroy them using only his brute strength, punches, and kicks. He first however deal with the oil and gas the vehicles still had in them to prevent them from spilling and contaminating the water. Everything was clearly planned, and a clear way to deal with all of it was easy for Toshinori to see as he saw Izuku deal with all the stuff that had been dumped that particular day. If anything, the most shocking thing was when Izuku had to remove his shirt and undershirt, because he didn't want to get them stained by the various oils, liquids, and stuff inside some of the old trucks that were left. Toshinori couldn't believe what he was looking. When he was wearing his clothes he looked like a meek and almost weak person, but now that he could see his muscles as he moved one vehicle after another using only his own strength, he was amazed at the way his muscles looked. It was amazing that he could actually pretend to be a bodybuilder, but all he had done is take care of the junk on this one beach. He said to hell with it, and he did his best to try and help Izuku with this particularly stubborn old jeep. You know, Izuku, due to my injury, I can't use my quirk for as long as I would like. It is painfully clear after the sludge villain that I need to find a successor to inherit this quirk, the very same Nana passed down to me. I was thinking of offering it to you after I had you trained to toughen you up enough that you could handle it, but seeing what you've been doing as a hobby, I don't think you need any more training. After they got done with all the new junk that needed to be sorted and Izuku was done taking care of all the repairs on the appliances that could be repaired, Toshinori asked him why is this beach so important to him. Most kids would rather spend their time playing with their friends or enjoying a video game, or even watching something fun on their television, so why was this so important? Izuku took a deep breath and looked at him with a serious look. To you, as All Might, maintaining peace is the most precious thing in the world. You would risk your very life for it, but I follow the path of those before me. As a dread pirate, I love the sea. Don't you know, the one that has the greatest freedom upon these seas is none other than the dread pirate Roberts. In the near future, I will have to take up my mantle once again, and believe me, I shall strike fear in the hearts that do evil, as the dread pirate Roberts is what I must and will always do. Toshinori smiled at Izuku, and he suddenly pulled something from the back of his head. I was someone who was also born without a quirk, but Nana saw something in me and made me her successor. It is time I chose mine as well, and I have chosen you, Izuku, you who jumped in to save that person without expecting any praise or reward, without any hesitation. You are a hero. Now take this hair and eat it. After you get used to the changes, your training to handle my quirk shall begin. Izuku asked him why he needed to eat a hair of all things. Toshinori smiled. There are many who speculate and even made rumors about my quirk, but my quirk is not the one people think it is. My quirk is called One for All. It can only be inherited by a person eating the DNA of the current user, and only when the current user is willing to inherit the quirk. A villain can pluck my head till I am bald, and eat every single strand, but because I would never willingly inherit my quirk to such a person, it is meaningless. Eat my hair, and take all for one, and I will train you to use it so that one day you can be the symbol of peace in my place. Izuku asked him why was this so important, to which Toshinori pulled up his shirt revealing the extent of his injuries. Toshinori told him he lost a lung and his stomach due to injuries caused during a fight against a villain, one that has been hunting down people of his family, responsible for the deaths of so many of the previous dread pirates. His name was All for One and is the man who tortured and forced a quirk into his own brother, a brother who later tried to stop him, and thus All for One unwittingly helped create the quirk that every person that stood against him inherited, One for All. As soon as Izuku manages to eat that single strand of hair without actually throwing it back up, he felt like something was wrong with his body. It began to cause pain in every part of his body down to his very nerves, and this pain continued for what seemed to be an hour, but in reality, it was only a few minutes, as the body adjusted to receiving and incorporating One for All. And as soon as it was done, his family's quirk began to heal his body. His mind was kept clear through it all thanks to the effect of his family's quirk on the mind. Izuku finally got up from the ground and looked at Toshinori, and his godfather was shaking his head as if he was happy to see that this had actually worked for him. Well, that was like getting over being kicked in the head by a mule, but oh well, no pain, no gain, I get it. Come on, we need to get back home so that I can call my uncles over. They probably have an idea how to fix those injuries of yours. Toshinori looked at Izuku like he said something that was completely and utterly insane. As much as I appreciate the idea that you want to give me hope that my injuries can be healed, I know better than that. I've been to the best hospitals, the best surgeons, and even some research labs. The only thing they could agree on is that it is a miracle that I am still alive. But now you are telling me your uncles, which I probably never met, actually have a way to do something that modern medicine has claimed to be impossible. Izuku looks quite bored when All Might spends so much time of the supposed training to stuff he already did, like lifting and other exercises, while the rest is spent on what Izuku called bare-knuckles brawling, as he had the memories and experience of generations of previous pirates to call upon. He came to realize that the number of times that he had to actually fight anyone with just his bare hands could be counted with the fingers of one hand. You know the entrance exam, you have to since you are going to teach at UA, so you know as well as I do, that fighting is only probably for the practical part of it, but the other part has to be the written exam. To tell you the truth, I am more worried about that. His godfather evades yet another punch from Izuku and tells him he has not much to worry about. After all, he has been getting personal lessons from Mizu, and in that regard, he is more ready than any of the other students. Taking the UA entrance exam. Right now he needs to focus on his attack strength, but also his attack speed. He goes further and mentions instead he should stop holding back and show him what he is capable of. Look, I just hate to pick on the disabled, elderly, or inferred. You want me to stop holding back, then agree to come with me to the clinic of my family friends, and let us take care of your missing organs and injuries, cause until that is done, I just feel like a bully if I went all out on you, and I ain't a bully. Todoroki was not happy to be told this once again and glared at Izuku as he told him once again he already went to every single hospital, research lab, specialist, and anyone who could possibly help other than making a deal with the devil. Every single one told them his condition was impossible to cure, that it would literally require God Almighty to come down from heaven or for someone to perform a miracle. Funny you should mention that because the clinic that I am talking about was opened by the man who saved the life of one of my predecessors. He was revived from almost being nothing more than a corpse, so to me it is funny, because you say you require a miracle, and the thing is that is exactly what they can do on a daily basis. So as your successor, I am asking if not begging you to trust me and come with me to this clinic, and once this is done, you will see this is something we should have done at least half a month ago. Toshinori asked him what happens if the clinic also tells them his condition is incurable. Izuku without wasting a second tells him if the people they are going to meet determine he is not treatable, he will follow his instructions on his training without a single complaint, comment, or argument, and he will follow his schedule and decisions to the letter till the training is over. Toshinori could only say one thing after hearing what Izuku said, and that was deal. They decided to run to get there since it would be a lot more efficient than simply riding or asking someone for a ride. That is when they finally made it to the medical district of the city. Most receptionists wanted to tell him that he could not enter the building without an appointment, and to Toshinori this place was one of the few places that very few people got to see the inside of this place, much less the lobby. It was the headquarters of the Miracle Max Industries. This place was rumored that only extremely rich heroes, celebrities and government officials could even afford to get an appointment, much less get medical treatment here. Toshinori thought this was a waste of time since they were none of that, so the chances are they would not get to see anyone, much less get an appointment for a medical exam. Now you listen to me, you limey land lover, I ain't got no time to sit here as foam on the brine. You get off your asses and tell Max and his wife that Rogers needs them for something, and so help you, I will pull out a piece of two, and sing that song to summon the Flying Dutchman, and have Davy Jones help you realize I ain't kidding as he drags most of you to AF water grave. Izuku slammed down his pistol and a gold doubloon that has a cut running right in the middle of it. The minute they saw the old pistol and the coin they knew he was not kidding or joking, and immediately remembered the executive saying never to mess with the dread pirates Roberts, and they just called him Rogers. No wonder he was this pissed. A manager came running towards Izuku and Toshinori, and she bowed her head and apologized for the mistake the reception staff had made. We mean no disrespect, Captain Roberts, please, believe me. In fact, the two company owners are very happy that you came to visit our humble little establishment. They asked me to take you to them and ask what was so important that you came for their help. They know you wouldn't do this unless it was a matter of life and death. Izuku picked up his pistol and put it back on his belt. and he put the coin back in his shirt pocket. I know how important the stuff those two are doing, and I don't get in the way of that unless it was something I need AF miracle to solve. A pleasure to see you again, Ms. Montoya. By all means, lead the way. She was blushing when Izuku mentioned her name as she led them towards an executive private elevator, and told him in fact she actually got married since last time they met. She had to admit that she was rather sad that the fabled Dread Pirate Roberts could not attend her wedding, but she could only figure that it was due to something terribly important or bloody. Sorry I forget, had to deal with some that was giving us pirates a bad name, worse than usual actually. They were a pack of jackals pretending to be pirates. They threw away any pirate discipline, honor, or ethics, and they were attacking anything that even looked like it had money. Let's just say we sent them down to Davy Jones' locker before the next morn. So shame I could not see you all dressed up for your happy moment, apologies. She laughed and told him that was to be expected, and she's happy to hear that he dealt with those people pretending to be pirates. As for not seeing her in her wedding dress, she does have a few pictures of the wedding should he wish to see them later. Toshinori wanted to tease Izuku and asked him how did he know such a pretty young lady. First, don't assume age from looks, and by pictures, she means painted portraits. This is one of the daughters of one of my former crew members. Shame I could not share a last drink with that Spaniard. Indigo Montoya, wherever you are, knows you are missed. How old could this pretty young lady possibly be? At most she was in her late 20s, at most early 30s. As they finally reached the floor they were headed, she opened the door by pressing a ring against a part of the elevator to get it scanned. As the scan was complete, the door opened, and they were told to follow them further inside, what seems to be a small garden, outside what seems to be a rural home. Inside a massive private corporate building, she looked at All Might and told him. What he said was sweet, but in truth, she is over 250 years old. If Roberts came here for a miracle, well, that is exactly what my grandfather and grandmother do. Miracles are their business after all, so relax, young man, there is nothing to be afraid of, unless, of course, you lie to them. As they entered the home, a middle-aged woman dressed in a casual dress came and hugged Izuku like she was greeting a relative or an old family friend. Roberts, so nice to see you after so long. Sorry for the trouble those people caused, but hearing how you reacted, tells me what you came here for is serious. So tell me, old friend, what caused you to be so upset? You want to know why I am upset? I came here to get you to fix this guy here. He went to all those wise guys that pretend to heal people, and they told him he already bought a ticket for the Flying Dutchman, so knowing better, I came to the two people I know are actual healers, unlike those frauds. If anyone can fix this guy up, it's you and Max. As to why, I intended to make him part of my crew, but he keeps refusing cause he is so injured. Her husband Max finally finished his tea and came over towards the guy who was brought over to be treated and asked what the hell is wrong with him other than poor diet. Toshinori told him that due to an injury, he lost a lung in his stomach. Those idiots said that was not something they can cure, those lousy quacks, just a lung, and a stomach. It will be 23 coins, wife get treatment 29, that should fix this guy good as new, and add the supplements free of charge to show him what real healers can do, unlike those F-crooks. Izuku didn't say argue and simply places a cloth bag on the counter, and from the sound of it, it had quite a few gold doubloons, told them he came prepared, and as the couple began to prepare something that looked like it came out of a toilet, and without asking All Might's opinion they held by the throat and poured, and immediately Toshinori was rolling on the floor like he was feeling a lot of pain, till he got up and he found himself in his muscular form. His body was restored to be back in his prime, with no signs of injury, or any damage caused by the missing organs. To Toshinori it was as if a dream had come true. He longer is not going to have a limit on how long he can have one for all active if he still has it. In a word, this is what he wished for ever since that battle ended, for a miracle, and he got it. The fact that he looked like before that happened to him made him at first think he was dreaming, and was waiting for something to wake him up, till he felt someone check his heart rate and check his breathing by placing a rather cold metallic thing against his chest. Well, Roberts, you were right, this case was absolutely something only we could take care of. I got to tell you that it really is heartwarming to realize that even after all these years, you still believe in our ability as healers, unlike the idiots in our current time. Thanks to bad publicity, countless negative articles on newspapers, magazines, and all sorts of media, People actually stopped believing that we could do the things we said we could. We got called scam artists, frauds, crooks and... Those were the nice remarks. I will not stoop so low to mention the insulting ones. That is why we ended up treating only politicians, celebrities, and rich people, because those that come are desperate enough to at least give us the benefit of the doubt. Honestly, Roberts, we wanted to use our healing potions, pills, elixirs, and other things to help as many people as possible, but this ends up happening. Izuku knew this was far worse than they were thinking. Immediately he began to analyze what they told him, and almost like he always does when he was analyzing a quirk, he began to go through the many possibilities as the others could only hear his muttering in rapid succession. It took him 2 minutes, but he had a much more reasonable theory: professional sabotage. The pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, doctors, and the pharmacy companies got together to eliminate Miracle Max's company. Completely to cut out a potential competitor. It was unethical, cruel and greedy, so, of course, Izuku believed these people would be absolutely willing to do that. He couldn't mention this without proof, so he would only mention this to one of the heroes in All Might's agency, a man he once met, a hero that introduced himself as Night Eye. If anyone would be able to obtain the relevant evidence, it would most certainly be a person with his quirk. He, of course, would be willing to do so, since the people who were wronged were people that had done so much for All Might, and Night Eye would help if only to show his gratitude. He did not want to think about the results if he told the hero that he helped him learn to use his power, and prevented him from becoming a vigilante killer, by guiding him down a more positive path. Had he told him, everyone that was involved in this would be scared half to death, and they would confess everything to make the terror they lived under stop. To make matters worse in the courts, this would seem like a forced confession drawn due to duress, so it would be inadmissible. So telling Night Eye would be the best choice. As to verify that there were no negative side effects, a full physical exam would be needed, and for that, they had a complete floor designed for that very purpose. It also served as an area for physical rehabilitation and conditioning. Izuku told Max that if he wanted an entire training room to keep in shape, there is nothing to be ashamed about. Max told him to tell him that after he gets to be half his age, the older a person gets, the harder it is to maintain good physical condition, so they initially designed this place to be able to maintain their own health. Nobody is going to trust a healer that looks like he already has 1 foot and half of the other already on his grave. Toshinori switched his clothes for a set of workout clothes that seemed a little strange at first. Roberts, yes, those clothes have sensors that will let us detect if anything is wrong. We may be old, but we are not barbarians. We have kept up with medical technology and other advancements. You might have noticed that there is nothing to write down a prescription, or that we didn't take notes in a notebook about the treatment we just did. That is because we do that electronically. Now come on, stop making excuses and STRP, you are also wearing a set of those clothes, and yes, I am doing this to both check on your condition and to update your medical file, so no more excuses. We don't have a lot of time to waste, and we got a ton of things to do. As they began to spar against each other, it suddenly hit him. Say, are you even using the quirk I passed to you? Izuku told him, as a matter of fact, he has never activated that quirk since he felt that using that one while having the one his father passed on to him would be too much, and since All Might was still injured, it could make those injuries worse or even kill him, so out of the concern and not wanting to aggravate his injuries, he never did. That was a massive shock to Toshinori, realizing that he held off attacks while he used his quirk and later spars like they were fighting at a level that make them equals. He quickly asked him why he didn't mention this before. That his father somehow inherited his quirk to him. That is when Izuku was quick to mention that his father never once called it a quirk. It was an ability that was passed down from one person to their successors, as they took up the mantle of Dread Pirate Roberts. It was ever-growing ability that grew as this ability was passed down to successive Dread Pirates. He quickly asked him to give him at least an explanation of what this ability can do, and seeing no way to keep this a secret from him, decided to explain in detail. The ability is a mental and physical wellness ability. It prevents most diseases, and makes the person who has it increase their physical and mental abilities, but the ability grows stronger after each time it is passed down. It started rather a small benefit with the first, but as more and more people became the Dread Pirate Roberts down the line, the ability began to grow by leaps and bounds. It gives immense regeneration abilities, so much it increases how long I can live, my physical and Mental abilities are also increased, and that is the reason why I can learn things as fast as I can, and why I can analyze anything, any situation, or even a quirk and completely understand it in a matter of minutes. It is also the reason why All for One has killed so many of those that held this ability. Should he ever attempt to take it, his quirk would be destroyed completely. It is a quirk that will corrupt anyone that receives it, and eventually will take over the body, thus in this manner, as long as someone has All for One, that villain cannot truly die, because he will take over the body of anyone who has that quirk. He finally let out a sigh. Father passed down the ability to me since he had planned to retire, as many have done in the past, become my first mate, and train me to be a proper Dread Pirate Roberts as it has done to previous generations, but sadly, All for One attacked, and I saw my father fight him, and be killed by him. That BSTRD probably considered me less than a bug. He left me holding my father as he died. And the place where he died, is the beach we first met, the very place I trained to become stronger. One day I will be strong enough and see him again, and I will look into his eyes and I will tell him, "Hello, my name is izukumidoriya, you killed my father, prepare to die." For years I wanted nothing more than revenge, till I got to finally remember the memories of all the men who were Dread Pirate Roberts. We also gained their experience, knowledge, and skill. So yes, I am an experienced and talented pirate captain. I know the pirate code, and I can sail a ship with a handful of people if I must. So after gaining all that, I can say I am the Dread Pirate Roberts, and I am DMN proud of it, and miss my crew, and I shall want to raise vengeance from its watery grave to once again set sail on the open sea, as I longing. Toshinori asked him if he had to use the full power of that ability, and against Izuku had to confess that no, he didn't want to make All Might's injuries even worse than they already were. In fact, seeing him coughing up BLD, and remembering how his injuries looked, filled him with such concern that he only used half of the power of his ability. Anything else and he might hurt All Might. And that is something he desperately didn't want to do, since he knows that as the symbol of peace, the people still very much depend of them, and should he not be there to make them feel there is hope, riots, revolts, uprisings, and absolute bedlam would happen. I am a pirate, no way to deny that, and as pirates, we are not the most optimistic people around. We know situations can go belly up in a matter of seconds, a minor hole in the planks of the hull, and the ship could very well sink if not taken care of immediately. So we always prepare for when the situation gets worse, not if but rather when. Because it is only a matter of time. I know that should there be no symbol of peace, these calm and kind people will turn against each other. You think they are friends and care for each other, but given a bad enough situation, these people will outright kill each other, and tear each other's throat out, if it means their own survival. That is a simple reality that most wannabe heroes are either too naive to see or don't want to acknowledge. Toshinori then asked him why would he even attend UA, and Izuku told him that for him it was several reasons. He wanted to protect the innocent, and if that means he has to deal with the garbage to prevent those horrible situations, so be it, but also because deep down he wants to prevent others from falling under the influence of All for One and others like him. And if that leads to him actually killing off the BSTRD that killed his father, well, that is a very nice bonus. Toshinori was worried about how easily Izuku talked about killing and told him that heroes don't kill. This caused Izuku to laugh quite hard, and was asked what was so funny, as Izuku told him several heroes do in fact kill, and do so with little regard. Endeavor comes to mind as an example. Heroes may not kill according to him, but pirates have no such problem at all. If some person clearly is trying his best to end my life, it would be simply rude for me not to do the same for that person. It is not cruelty, it is just manners. If a so-called pro-villain tried to kill me, I will end their life with as much regret and guilt as they would feel about killing me. Honestly, it is the only decent thing to do. Toshinori wondered if the ability he gained from his father was essentially what people now called quirks, since in the ancient past there has been no mention of the word quirk in any literature from back then, but many possessed amazing abilities. Some most recognized were the ancient heroes of fables, myths, and legends. Many people currently think that those fabled heroes in these stories were in fact people like their current pro-heroes, and maybe the idea that quirks had begun to appear in ages past, but they simply didn't understand them and so they were called abilities or skills. He also wondered if that ability had somehow changed the personality of Izuku after he received it. he seemed a lot more cynical and not possessing the typical attitude of a black and white world where the heroes are the warriors of light, and the villains are the minions of demonic darkness. This made him want to see his true ability using that ability, and how it would react upon activating One for All, and honestly he could hardly truly begin teaching him how to effectively draw the power of that quirk if he simply refused to activate it. He had to see how the quirk reacted and affected his body. While Izuku, I am glad that you cared enough that you brought me here and took me to people that did what I and many considered impossible. I must see you use the quirk I passed down to you. I can't begin your training until I do, and we don't have many months left. As for me, I am as well as before I suffered those injuries, so there is no need to worry about hurting me. Hit me with your best shot. As for how to activate your quirk, it is rather embarrassing. You must clench your peach and scream deep within your soul, smash. A few hours later at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. The minute Izuku tried his best to activate One for All, his body felt like he was hit by a freight train, his muscles felt like they were being torn to shreds, and he had a tough time standing up straight if not breathing normally. When he tried to calm down and take a deep breath, he immediately began to get this terrible coughing fits, and as he was coughing he felt like something was wrong with his body. His ability did a lot to help to keep repairing his body, but it continued to be injured. Almost from the inside, like One for All was trying to kill him. As he walked over to All Might, who had this look of utter shock on his face, he began to cough up blood and collapsed in a heap on the ground, unconscious. Toshinori never heard of this ever happening to any of the previous people who inherited One for All, but that was not the most important issue. He needed to get his successor some medical attention, but he couldn't go to a normal hospital should knowledge of One for All be released to the general public. The chaos and potential threats by other villains wanting to get their hands on it, by any means was simply too high, but he couldn't simply leave Izuku to die to keep the secret. That is when he remembered that he had one choice. He quickly took his watch and pressed a hidden button that activated an SOS signal to a very skilled doctor that was in charge of treating everyone at UA. Not wanting to waste a second, he immediately picked up Izuku in his arms and began to run towards UA. He didn't care who saw him or that he used the limited time he had in this form, but he had to make sure Izuku, his successor, lived, or else he too would not be able to live with the guilt that he caused the death of his successor, such a noble and kind-hearted kid. He rescued the person who had been essentially his childhood bully, even while many would have stood by and let their bully simply die, to get rid of that headache. Not Izuku. As long as he knew that person was innocent, he jumped in trying to save the person, regardless of how dangerous this was to himself. He placed the safety of others before even thinking of his own. Toshinori couldn't help but smile in his mind, thinking that he may call himself a pirate, but when it comes to saving innocent people, he was more of a knight in shining armor than even he was, and people recognize him as the symbol of peace, the top hero. That was almost ironic, and he thought this as he finally made it to the grounds of UA, where Recovery Girl, Nizu, and other heroes had been waiting for him with a medical gurney. That isn't for me, it's for this guy. He suddenly collapsed. Looks like he is in immense pain, and started to cough up blood as I did. I could have had him be treated by Max and his wife, but in a panic this is the only place I could think I could trust. Please, Recovery Girl, please, I beg you, save the life of my successor. The guilt of causing his death is something that I could not bear. The lady walked up to him and immediately asked him what was his blood type. Toshinori told him he had no clue until he noticed his wallet and a medical bracelet, and he immediately told her it was a universal donor, type O. She quickly looked at the two other heroes and told him to prepare the clinic, and somehow get some bags of O-type blood from the local blood bank. They don't have enough at present in the clinic. DMN it, we usually have some, but we end up going through it rather quickly since we use it to treat most students, and we haven't restocked that in some time. Get Midnight and tell her we need for her to use her quirk to put the kid asleep. As long as he is awake, his body react to anyone present and cause himself even more harm. What the hell are you looking at? Get moving, we don't have time to stand around like this. Move it. Midnight's sidekick Midnight understood immediately what Recovery Girl was thinking. She removed Midnight's jacket and Midnight used her quirk to act as a form of anesthesia, helping Izuku to fall into a peaceful sleep. Hopefully, this would relax him enough for his body to calm down and they can figure out what the hell is wrong with him. As he was on the examination bed, she had to complain about if she was a lot younger. or if Izuku was closer to her age, she might want to ask the guy out, he looked so cute sleeping like that. She quickly stopped those thoughts as she remembered that this guy might be a future student, and this was not appropriate for a teacher to think of a potential student. Izuku found himself in a rather large space. A large group of men dressed as pirates were fighting what seems to be 7 glowing balls of light, and they didn't look like they were holding back at all. He only knew that after they attacked each other and after each hit, he could feel as if he was the one getting hit instead. It must be inside my mental scape, and these are the things causing me to feel like I do. I got to stop this or else, these idiots are going to end up killing me. A pirate to die on dry land, I don't think I could survive such a shame to my pirate pride. He walked up and began to imagine that they were standing on the deck of his dream ship, his version of the Vengeance. The surrounding quickly changed and they stopped fighting as they were shocked by the sudden change in the area. Izuku walked between the two groups and glared at them both. Now listen here, you miserable blycrats, you are on my bloody ship, so get that wax out of your ears, and for once in your miserable lives, listen, you need to stop all this roughhousing, cause you morons are going to end up killing me. And I don't know about you, but if you idiots do that, I will drag you lot with to aboard the Flying Dutchman when it comes for me, so unless you don't want to do that, we are going to go by pirate code, and parley. You understand me, or do I need to fire my cannons at your empty coconut heads to make you listen? Several of the pirates came to help Izuku stand as he was still feeling the pain from the last few punches 2 particular idiots had done against each other as he said that. Captain, your ship, your bloody rules, we will not attack this lot of land lovers if they promise to keep their groovy hands to themselves. You made me quite proud hearing you talk with such authority. I knew that my son would make a magnificent Dread Pirate Roberts. Hisashi was very proud of how his son dealt with the situation and was impressed he realized where he was so quickly since he was able to change how his mindscape looked so quickly. Now hear this, I don't want to hear excuses, lies, or other crappy justification. I want bloody facts, and I shall have that and only that. Now who cares to answer me this? Why are you bloody lot fighting like this inside my mind, nearly killing me? And don't tell me one side started it, cause you ain't teenagers, you're bloody adults, act like it. Hearing what he said they quickly began to turn into more human-looking people and they walked over to him. I am sorry, we are the vestiges of the previous torch holders of One for All. I came and many of my fellow heroes thought this place was invaded by villains. We thought that by defeating them we could help save you. We meant you no harm, we honestly thought that we were trying to rescue you from the clutches of such evil and vile men. One of the pirates was furious upon hearing what this man said and walked over to Izuku. You bloody dare call us evil, we are the vestiges of the previous Dread Pirate Roberts, we ain't evil or vile, we have saved more people and done more heroics that you stupid lot even know of. We were the first real heroes, not like you miserable lot who does good deed only to win fame and glory. I would say you lot are two-faced opportunists, and you dare say such things about us. Izuku looked at the man with a cold glare and he understood he would not stand for either of them fighting. You have a child understanding of the nature of what pirates are. Yes, many were evil, rotten, and cruel, but not all. Like not all so-called heroes are virtuous and selfless individuals. Stop trying to paint everything with such wide strokes, and listen, pirates and pro-heroes first and foremost they are people. Evil can exist in both. So stop fighting or so help me, I will grab this coin and summon Davy Jones and he can drag all of us to a watery grave, you get me? One of the vestiges still wanted to kill the villainous pirates and refused to listen, so Izuku took his silver coin in hand and looked at them. The king and his men took the queen from her bed and bound her in her bones. The seas be ours and by the powers where we will well go. Upon hearing those words every single vestige of the Dread Pirate Robert stopped immediately and they knew he was not kidding at all. One of them screamed at the foolish professional hero vestige and told him to stop or else they will get dragged down to a place that makes hell look like a paradise. The hero noticed that the pirate was not kidding from the sheer look of terror in his eyes. This single act had made a bloody pirate this scared. It was clearly not something to take lightly. Fine, take away my fun, why don't you? Alright, I will play nice with the pirates, but why are you someone who has One for All, being so nice? To these no good high seas bandits, these pillaging menaces, these mass murdering menaces. Izuku looked at the tall man who looked like he spent years working out, and looked like he shaved his hair off, and simply told him because he might have won for all, but he was still a pirate, and proud of it, causing the other vestiges of the dread pirate Roberts to shout a cheer. Now there is one person I know who would not let any of your horses around like this. She would have slammed her foot down and made you lot behave even if she had to force displn down your bloody throats. I know you are here, so no point in hiding. Come on out, Granny. I know you are here. Mind telling me why you didn't step in and displn this bunch? A young woman appeared from behind several other vestiges. Apparently, they thought they needed to shield her from the pirates. Stupid doesn't begin to describe it. Sorry Izuku, it took me a while to enter your mindscape after I felt something was wrong with you. The other surviving vestiges are coming soon, so don't worry. Naruto and Sasuke will keep the pirates in check, and you know Sasuke doesn't take kindly to brats. Now come here and let me give you a hug. At least here I can hug you without thinking you would cause me to break a rib or a bone. One of the vestiges still wanted to keep her away from him as he was dressed as the other pirates, till he punched him in the gut and told him she never needed anyone to defend her, not then and certainly not now, as one of the other vestiges asked her, who was the kid? She rushed and hugged him, and with a smile, she told the others, this was her grandson Izukumidoriya, grandson of Stephen Midoriya, and son of Hisashi Midoriya, as she pointed at two of the pirates who were smiling at her. They are no danger to me, in fact by the looks of it we are more of a danger to Izuku, so unless you want All for One to win, and One for All to be destroyed, stop fighting as my grandson told me, for if this happens those that don't listen are official minions of All for One. Is that what you want? They finally realized how foolish they had been, acting on pure impulse and adrenaline. They understood they were acting no better than a bunch of teenagers looking for an adventure. Look, all of you have to live inside my mind, and if this keeps up and you keep fighting there will be no more dread pirate Roberts or One for All, because you lot will cause my death, helping All for One achieve his lifelong wish of eliminating the ability that he lives in fear of, so either get along or accept the fact and title of being All for One minion, your choice. I don't need to mention how many of you he has killed, do I? This finally made them realize that their actions were helping the one thing they shared in common, their utter hatred of a common enemy. They both agreed to not only accept each other but try to find ways to cooperate and boost their abilities by working together. Thus the ability of that he got from his father and One for All will end up becoming even stronger. As he finally opened his eyes, he realized that he actually somehow managed to knock out quite a few of Plasma's clones and even several of the instructors. It seems that at one point when he was no longer under the effect of Midnight's quirk, he would beat up and even knock out anyone that tried to restrain him. Vlad had to be treated by recovery girls several times, but he had to agree. For a person so young he had one hell of a right hook. Nizu on the other hand found this to be quite amusing. He even went as far as to say he expected no less from his protege. This made every person present cringe as they heard Nizu laughing in a way that they wondered if he was actually a villain whose whole plot was to educate heroes to eliminate potential competition. This however doesn't explain how fast he can go into overprotective Papa Bear mode the minute that the lives or safety of his students is threatened. The thing that surprised them was that Izuku was this strong and he was capable to knock out professional heroes, and he was only attacking as a reaction to other people. It was by the next morning that Izuku finally woke up, and somehow his body began to heal a lot faster than Recovery Girl was expecting. Somehow his body seemed to have a healing factor that started to repair his body down to the cellular level, and the only thing that kept him unconscious was that every bit of energy his body could produce was focused solely on healing. To some it was quite frightening. And to Recovery Girl it was amazing. She had never seen someone recover from such extensive damage to their muscles and sensitive parts of their body this quickly and this efficiently. He woke up in the bed of the academy clinic. Somehow, thanks to him spending so much time talking to these vestiges in his mind, he found so much information about the abilities of the previous Dread Pirates, and he also learned quite a bit about training and controlling One for All, from the previous people that once had the quirk. Nana was the most willing to share the difficulties she once had and how much trouble her MSTR Gran Torino had in helping her train to use the quirk. The first user of One for All told him an absolute tearjerker story about how his brother forced a quirk down his throat without realizing that he already had a quirk. As such, he had plenty of things to talk about with these people, which means he was not surprised to see how long he was asleep. Well, that was a productive night's sleep, boy. I can't believe the SHT I just went through, and why is everyone looking at me like that? I hope I didn't do something bad when I was unconscious. All Might did say that he did actually punch and kicked a few of the staff a few times, and he did cause a little bit of trouble for the UA clinic since they had to get some BLD to replenish the BLD he coughed up, so they had quite a bit of work to keep him alive. Izuku apologized for causing all this problem, but he did manage to do something rather incredible. This made Nizu and the others wonder what does he mean by that. Inside my body, the vestiges of the previous people who had won for all were fighting against the previous people who were the Dread Pirate Roberts. The battle between these vestiges was actually the thing that was causing me physical and mental harm. Only when I was completely unconscious was I able to enter my mindscape and manage to meet with all the vestiges. So I finally got to get them to stop fighting and get along thanks to the help of Granny Nana. Well, that was strange, and I learned a lot about One for All. All Might has to ask what he means by the vestiges. Izuku told him that it was mental copies of the previous people who had once for all, and the previous Dread Pirate Roberts, and they were amazed to hear about Nana and the other previous holders of One for All and apparently taught him many things. The thing that was amazing to the others was to learn that before the 10th person to inherit the title of Dread Pirate Roberts, quirks did not exist at all, but after the 10th Dread Pirate Roberts, quirks began to appear, and every single Dread Pirate Roberts after the 10th once developed quirks which would later be inherited along with the title to each of the successive people that inherit the title. He can only tap into the powers of the first 9 abilities of the first 9 people to inherit the title of the Dread Pirate Roberts. Izuku told them that as far as the vestiges told him his quirk and ability are influencing each other to such an extent that they are merging together for an entirely different and quite possibly new quirk, a quirk that is made up of both parts, and since this is such an extensive change, and it is happening throughout his body, they told him that using extensive amounts of his power before his body can adjust and the quirk finished its evolution and finally settles down, would be potentially fatal, so they advised him several times that at best, he can use 16% of his total power in case of emergencies, but that will cause severe pain, trauma and possibly injuries, so they told Izuku it would be best if he used as little as possible of his quirk, and they also told him that it might even get stronger over time. Izuku, however, did tell them that he had access to every ability that the first 9 Dread Pirate Robertson once used, and that at least means he could take down villains, which means he could probably take down some unruly, unscrupulous scoundrels, and with enough support gear and gadgets he could take down at least up to class of professional villains. They want me to go to UA, study, train, and get along with people, but we all know I can't stay sitting with my thumb up my ass if I see a person's life in danger. I can't help it. So chances are I will end up making some stupid decisions, taking some rather foolish risks, and trying to save innocent people while in immense pain, while wearing a stupid grin on my face, because I don't want to cause people to worry or feel anxious, because when people panic it tends to make the entire thing of trying to save them extra difficult. Nizu asked him what could they do to help him. Izuku mentioned this as a sort of a joke and said if they could get Eraserhead to teach him his style of fighting, that would be a lot of help, since like he said until the quirk finished changing and settled down, he can't technically use it. The only upside is that All Might is cured of his injury. So technically he is no longer suffering from that and is no longer under that time limit on how long he can use One for All. I do think we need to keep pretending that he is injured and much weaker, or this might cause All for One to do something absolutely nuts out of sheer desperation. He once used the quirk to take on that muscular form to hide his weakened form, well now he has to do the opposite, use his quirk to appear weaker, to hide the fact that he has recovered. All Might pretty much told Izuku he essentially was as weakened as he once was after he received his injuries that took one of his lungs and his stomach, to which Izuku told him essentially that was true, except that unlike him he was not missing 2 large organs, his body was undergoing too many rapid changes and in such a critical and fundamental way, that his quirk essentially was in a state of flux, constantly changing, and this was putting a massive strain on his entire body. Like I said, I will be pretty much like one of the first 9 people that ever inherited the title of Dread Pirate Roberts, at least till my quirk finished changing and become stable. When that happens I will have to meet with the vestiges again to find out exactly what One for All ended up becoming, and then they will teach me how to best train and get used to it, and only then will I ever be able to use more than 16% of my power. Vlad asked him what if he had to face a world-ending threat. a villain that makes all for one look like a schoolyard bully by comparison. Izuku told him in that case, since if he doesn't stop the threat of that villain, the world is pretty much screwed, so technically he would have no alternative but to do something stupid, and use 100% of his power, and if he did that, he could stop that villain. As long as others don't mind the fact that he more than likely will drop dead the second after he did that. So in that dire situation, I am forced to quote a very wise man said in an old movie, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. In such a world-ending scenario, saving the lives of an entire world, at the cost of one life, most people would call that a bargain for the ages. Personally, I rather not die like that. I want to fall in love, marry, have kids, and eventually have grandkids whom I can spoil, but that is neither here nor there, because, in the end, we simply don't know how our lives will go or how we will end up, and we don't always get what we want, now do we? Izuku told them that in the end he can only do his best, and have to accept that. He simply said he was at best a young adult, but after all the memories, experience, and knowledge that will come with all those changes I will go through, I honestly wonder if at the end, will I still be me? Or will I end up becoming someone new? Someone just asked him if this isn't scary to him. He might never be the person he once was. It can be if you focus only on how it affects you, but like I said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. At this moment in time, I have the knowledge, memories, and wisdom that make me thousands of years old, yet, I am not at the same time. Here is what I came up with, this idea: why do people become heroes? For glory, fame, attention. You are not a hero, you are a glory-seeking jackass. You only care about yourself, and only yourself. A hero does not become a hero for his own benefit, but for the benefit of others. They get to live the happiness of a problem-free ordinary life, but the hero has to live second by second in a constant struggle against those that would harm others and against himself, not letting the power they hold make them into a villain. That is why I say I may do heroic things, but at the end of the day, I am the dread Pirate Roberts, and I am alright with that. As Izuku said this, Nana, Naruto, and Sasuke arrived walking through the door into the UA clinic. Nobody was expecting them, and Toshinori was happy to see Nana but then asked them what took them so long to get there. Sasuke looked at Toshinori with a scowl. Look brat, we got the feeling someone was wrong just half an hour ago, and we were across the world, so excuse us if it took us a little time to fly here. We also contacted the other surviving dread pirates so they could connect to the ability, and help the kid out, so mind telling us what the hell have you lot been doing till now? Naruto and Sasuke approached Izuku, their expressions hardening as they surveyed the scene around them. The area was chaotic, littered with unconscious bodies and the remnants of what had just transpired. The two young warriors exchanged glances, their disbelief palpable. In a world where heroes stood tall, it was shocking that a single unconscious boy had managed to take so many of them down. Can you believe this? Naruto scoffed, shaking his head. These guys are supposed to be pro-heroes. They can't even handle one kid. His voice was tinged with frustration, reflecting the disappointment he felt in those who were meant to protect others. Sasuke nodded in agreement, the corners of his mouth turning down slightly. True. If they were up against real danger, like in a war, they wouldn't last more than a couple of hours. His tone was serious, his thoughts drifting to the battles they had faced. The harsh realities of war had forged them into powerful fighters, in stark contrast to the people before them. As they turned their attention back to Izuku, who lay unconscious and vulnerable, Sasuke's resolve deepened. We have no other choice. We need to take him to that place. He has to be stabilized and prepared to use his quirk. It isn't ideal, but we've done it before. The urgency in his voice was clear. They had faced countless challenges, but this felt different. Izuku needed their help. Naruto glanced at Toshinori, his face etched with concern. And you, he started, his voice carrying an edge. You just recovered from serious injuries. You haven't done any real physical training or rehab. Don't even try to deny it. Sasuke and I noticed the signs right away. His gaze was intense, unyielding. Toshinori shifted uncomfortably under their scrutiny. The weight of their words pressed down on him. He knew they were right. He began, but the words failed him. No excuses, Naruto cut him off, his voice firm. You're coming with us too. Izuku needs the training, and you need the rehab. There will be no questions asked. Toshinori opened his mouth to argue but fell silent, realizing there was no point. The determination in Naruto and Sasuke's eyes made it clear that this was not a negotiation. We won't stop until this gets done, Sasuke added, his expression unyielding. You'll go where we say, and you won't protest. Do I make myself clear? His tone left no room for disagreement. Crystal, Toshinori finally replied, nodding slowly, a mix of resignation and acceptance in his eyes. Beside him, Izuku remained unaware of the intensity of their conversation, still in a deep unconsciousness. Naruto turned back to Izuku, his heart heavy with concern. We're doing this for you, kid, he murmured. You need to wake up and realize your strength. A silence settled among them, thick with unspoken thoughts. Sasuke glanced around at the fallen bodies, a bitter taste in his mouth. It was unsettling to witness the state of what were meant to be the strongest. As Naruto crouched beside Izuku, he felt a surge of determination. Let's make sure you wake up ready to face the challenges ahead. We're not leaving you behind. With that, they turned to leave, stepping over the remnants of the chaos they were determined to rectify. The path ahead was uncertain, but they were ready to face it together, for the sake of Izuku and the future they all fought to protect. Nizu leaned against his desk, his sharp mind racing with thoughts. He glanced at the other teachers, who seemed equally puzzled. Where are Naruto and Sasuke really taking Toshinori and Izuku? He wondered aloud, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. Naruto, sensing their apprehension, spoke up in a calm, reassuring manner. We're taking them to a special place we can create with our powers. It's something Sasuke and I have done before. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he explained further. We have what you might call gamer powers. This means we can shape a dungeon to meet our specific needs. Sasuke, standing by Naruto, nodded in agreement. This dungeon offers everything Toshinori and Izuku will require. There's food, equipment, living spaces, and even books. It's designed to help Izuku stabilize his body so he can use his quirk safely. For Toshinori, it will include physical therapy and rehab. The other teachers exchanged glances. They were starting to understand the gravity of the situation. But that's not all, Naruto continued, his tone serious. The time flow in this dungeon is different from the real world. A single day outside equals a whole year inside. That's why we call it the hyperbolic time dungeon. Nizu raised an eyebrow, intrigued. A year of training in just one day. That's incredible. Exactly, Sasuke replied. In just 1 year, Izuku can learn to control his quirk. He'll be ready for UA, able to pass both exams and have the skills to use his powers without any issues. The confidence in his voice was palpable. As Nizu pondered the implications, a flicker of concern crossed his face. And Toshinori? Will this truly help him recover? Definitely, Naruto assured him. Toshinori can keep pretending to be weak. In reality, he'll regain his power. He thinks he transferred his quirk, but that isn't the case. He still has it. His mind just limits him. It's similar to how every Dread Pirate Roberts passes down skills. Just like One for All, it's about understanding our abilities. Toshinori sat quietly, absorbing their words. He felt a mix of doubt and hope. As the weight of his injury had burdened him, the idea of recovery felt like a distant dream. Yet, a small ember of hope sparked within him. Izuku, listening intently, felt overwhelmed. Will I really be able to control my quirk? He asked, his voice shaky. Naruto met his gaze. Absolutely, Izuku. We believe in you. This is your chance to grow stronger and prove yourself. With this promise, a sense of determination began to fill the room. The teachers, despite their initial skepticism, found themselves warming to the idea. Nizu finally spoke, if this can truly aid both of them, then we must support it. They need all the help they can get. Sasuke nodded, his expression serious. This is about their futures. We can't let them remain stuck. They deserve a chance to rise. Motivated by this newfound hope, the teachers agreed to the plan. They could see the potential for growth, healing, and strength. Together, they set their sights on the next steps, ready to support their students on this unusual yet promising journey. Sasuke leaned against a nearby wall, his expression serious. He explained that the hyperpublic time dungeon had strict rules regarding entry and exit. As the name suggests, he said, his voice steady, once someone steps foot inside, they can't leave without both of our approvals. His eyes narrowed slightly. For those inside, a full year will pass, even though only one day goes by in the real world. It's a way to ensure intense training and recovery. Izuku nodded, understanding the weight of those words. So, for that one day, we'll be completely cut off. No communication with anyone. He felt a twinge of concern. The isolation meant that friends and allies would not be able to reach out for help or share important news. That's a long time for people to be out of touch, Izuku observed, his brow furrowing. Sasuke continued, exactly. The dungeon is completely isolated. There's no way for anyone outside to get in or reach those inside. It's essential for focusing on training, free from distractions. He glanced at Naruto, both of them aware of the sacrifices they were asking from their friends. Naruto remembered their powers. Getting in isn't hard for us. We treat our lives like a video game, or RPG, as you would call it, he said, a slight grin appearing on his face. But first, we need to invite Izuku and Toshinori to join our party. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Once they accept the invite, a portal will open. They can step right into the dungeon. But anyone outside of our party will have no chance of getting in. He tapped the wall thoughtfully, aware of the risks of keeping the dungeon's secrets closed off. Naruto paused, thinking aloud, you think any of those pro-heroes might try to sneak in without telling us? Sasuke's eyes darkened with concern. It's possible. Some might want to study the dungeon and search for its secrets. They could try to recreate this place. The thought sparked tension between them. The implications of their powers falling into the wrong hands were troubling. Naruto sighed, processing the potential dangers. If they succeed, our advantage could vanish. We need to make sure no one gets the wrong idea. Right, Sasuke agreed. We have to stay alert. We can't let curiosity lead to chaos. As they exchanged thoughts, both sensed the responsibility resting heavily on their shoulders. The training in the dungeon was not just about power, it was about safeguarding their world from those who might misuse it. They needed to be strategic and to consider the possible outcomes of their decisions carefully. The looming question sat between them, how far would others go to gain access to their secrets? Would their friends stay loyal, or might ambition lead to betrayal? Their mission required trust, focus, and caution, and both knew that their fight was only beginning. Naruto and Sasuke focused intently, channeling their thoughts to send invites to Izuku and Toshinori. They finished the mental command, and both young heroes suddenly saw a small box appear in front of them. The box glowed softly, presenting a clear message, you have been invited to join the party of Naruto and Sasuke. Do you agree to join? Below the text, 2 buttons were visible, marked yes and no. Izuku, filled with curiosity and excitement, glanced at Toshinori. The pro-hero raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Without hesitation, they both pressed the yes button. Instantly, Naruto's eyes lit up as he observed both Izuku and Toshinori join their party. Sasuke, maintaining his serious demeanor, wasted no time. He swiftly sent another invitation for them to enter the hyperbolic time dungeon. As the invitation materialized, Izuku looked at Toshinori with a mix of excitement and apprehension. What do you think this place is like? He asked, feeling the rush of adrenaline. Toshinori smiled softly but seriously replied, "We don't know, but we need to be cautious." With a shared nod of agreement, both heroes pressed yes again. Suddenly, a swirling portal burst open behind them, vibrant and enticing. They both took a deep breath, then stepped into the portal, disappearing from sight. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in a vast, unrecognizable space. The compound where they stood was simple but sturdy, built of gray stone with a few windows allowing light to stream in. Outside these walls, there was nothing but a massive expanse of white, like an endless canvas stretching infinitely. It was unnerving. They felt small in this strange environment. Naruto observed their expressions. "Welcome to the hyperbolic time dungeon. The area outside the compound is tricky," he warned, his tone serious. "The further you go from here, the stronger gravity will affect you. If you wander too far, you could get lost or crushed. Trust me on this, stay close to the training area for your safety." Izuku, feeling a hint of fear, replied, "That sounds dangerous. How do we train here then?" He looked around, wanting to understand what they would face. "There's plenty to do inside the compound," Sasuke replied, a hint of excitement edging into his voice. "We can train together. There are a few rooms meant for different types of combat training and simulations." Toshinori nodded, adjusting his glasses, contemplating the gravity of the situation not in the physical sense, but in the responsibility he felt. "It's crucial we maintain our focus. This is not just training, it can affect our lives and those we protect." He cast a stern glance toward the white expanse, wondering what dangers lay ahead. Naruto nodded, sensing the tension. "Don't worry. Just listen to me, and you'll be fine. We'll stick together." There was a spark in his eyes, a promise of camaraderie. Izuku felt a wave of determination. "Let's make the most of this. We can really push our limits here." A small smile formed on his face as he rallied his energy. Each hero felt renewed, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. As they prepared to enter the training rooms, a brief silence filled the air, each lost in their thoughts. The gravity of where they were settled in their minds. Outside, the vastness of white reflected their vulnerability, yet inside, they felt a surge of power and potential. It was a balance of fear and excitement. At that moment, they shared a silent agreement. This was more than just training. It was a chance to grow stronger, to forge bonds, and to prove themselves together. The adventures that awaited them were unknown, but one thing was certain, they would face them side by side. As the group stepped into the hyperbolic time dungeon's main building, they felt as if they were walking into a small city. The space stretched out before them, filled with everything one could want or need. Shops lined the streets, offering food, gear, and all sorts of training equipment. The atmosphere buzzed with an energy that was both exciting and overwhelming. Naruto, always full of enthusiasm, turned to the others to discuss Toshinori's training. He found himself laughing uncontrollably at the idea of how they could get started. "Just get someone who can actually train him," he said, a mischievous grin on his face. "Someone who knows what they're doing." His mind raced at the thought of a legendary mentor stepping up to the plate. Just then, Gran Torino appeared before them. He had an air of authority mixed with an approachable demeanor. He had just come from the direction of the dining hall, a satisfied smile on his face. "Nothing like a good meal to fuel the day," he remarked, brushing crumbs off his shirt. Next to him stood an appealing woman with warm eyes and a kind smile, who seemed equally put together. Toshinori felt a wave of anxiety. The thought of Gran Torino being his trainer sent chills down his spine. He remembered the strict training methods his mentor employed. Gran Torino approached the group, and Toshinori's heart raced, dreading what was to come. Izuku, oblivious to the tension in the air, rushed toward the woman. With sheer joy, he hugged her tightly. "Granny Nana," he exclaimed, his voice ringing with excitement. The woman returned the embrace gently, but her face turned to one of surprise when she noticed the others. Gran Torino's eyes widened. Izuku, you can't just call her that out of the blue, he exclaimed, a combination of shock and disapproval evident in his firm tone. Toshinori felt a pit form in his stomach. He had always respected Nana Shimura and her legacy. Seeing her name invoked like that stirred something deep inside him. The woman chuckled softly, her laughter calming the moment. It's all right, Gran Torino. I think it's sweet, she replied, looking fondly at Izuku. Her eyes twinkled with a warmth that eased the tension. You remind me so much of his younger self. Gran Torino crossed his arms, looking sternly at Toshinori. Better get ready, All Might. Training starts now, he said, letting out a small chuckle. He clearly took joy in teasing Toshinori, who stood frozen, torn between fear and determination. Naruto smirked at Toshinori's expression. Looks like you're in for it now, he teased. Sasuke watched silently, his expression unreadable. The thought of intense training did not faze him. He was ready for challenges, and he took pride in that mindset. Toshinori tried to steel himself, though the knot of dread in his stomach remained. I'm ready, he finally declared, surprising even himself with the strength of his voice. The enthusiasm from the group was contagious, and he felt a flicker of hope. Gran Torino clapped his hands together. Great! Let's see what you're made of. Just remember, Nana trained me, and I trained All Might, and now I will retrain you All Might and train Izuku. The stakes were set, and the air hung heavy with anticipation. As they moved toward the training area, the laughter faded, replaced by the weight of expectation. The unknown loomed ahead, but for the first time in a while, Toshinori felt the thrill of readiness to push his limits. The journey had begun, and each step forward was a step into the unknown, filled with promise and possibility. Izuku's eyes widened in confusion as he processed Naruto's explanation. But how can we even go into the dungeon, he blurted out, the urgency in his voice reflecting his longing for clarity. Naruto smiled, sensing Izuku's curiosity but aware of the deeper implications. You're a permanent member of my party, Izuku. If you check your status page, you'll see Gran Torino and Nana listed as well. That means we all have access to the gamer powers. Izuku's fingers fumbled as he pulled up his status page. Scanning the screen, he noticed the names. A thrill shot through him. So we can all enter any of the dungeons? Exactly, Naruto confirmed, his expression serious. There are 108 dungeons in total, created by Sasuke and me. We designed them to be versatile. They help us grow, train, and perfect our skills in any situation. Gran Torino chimed in, think of it like this, Batman from DC Comics. He can tackle any villain with the right preparation. Izuku nodded, the analogy settling in. So, these dungeons are like Batman's gadgets? Yes. Nana interjected, her enthusiasm brightening the atmosphere. Just imagine a hero facing a powerful villain. The hero has only the villain's past actions to rely on. But with the hyperbolic time dungeon, things change. They can study the villain's strengths and weaknesses, learn about their quirk, and develop strategies. Izuku's mind raced. So, we could create a plan to counter any attack, right? That's the idea, Naruto said, leaning closer to Izuku. And we can do all of this in just an hour. But how? Izuku pressed on, determined to understand every aspect. Nana explained, in that hour, you can go through multiple scenarios. You can test out different moves, rework your strategy, and create protective gear against the villain's attacks. Izuku took a breath, feeling a mix of excitement and pressure. That's amazing. But what if I make a mistake? What if I can't prepare well enough? Gran Torino placed a reassuring hand on Izuku's shoulder. Mistakes are part of learning, kid. Every time you fail, you gain experience. And we'll be right here to help you. Yeah, Naruto added, his voice steady. We all face our fears in this training. The only way to grow stronger is to confront the unknown. Izuku nodded slowly, newfound determination rising within him. I understand now. These dungeons give us the tools to prepare for anything, to tackle our enemies head-on, and to protect what we love. As the group exchanged looks of support, the weight of their mission settled between them. They were not just training, they were building a future where they could face challenges together. They knew that because of the dungeons and their partnership, they stood a better chance against whatever threats loomed ahead. At this moment, Izuku felt a spark of hope igniting. The path of a hero was not a solitary one. With friends by his side, he could face any villain and emerge victorious. Together, they would push their limits and redefine what it meant to be a hero. The thought of Gran Torino's training methods made Naruto laugh out loud. The very idea seemed absurd to him. After all, he was a ninja who had been trained in the art of combat from an early age, in a village known for producing skilled warriors. He had faced a myriad of challenges and endured tough lessons. Yet, the concept of Gran Torino as a trainer felt almost comical. Naruto's mind wandered back to his days in the Hidden Leaf Village, Konoha. He recalled the figure of Might Guy, a man who was famous or perhaps infamous for his extreme training techniques. Just thinking about Guy sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. His training sessions were legendary for their intensity, often veering into the realm of the ridiculous. Inhumane seemed like a fitting description. Might Guy was not just a trainer, he was a force of nature. His vibrant green jumpsuit and wild hair reflected his larger-than-life personality. He believed wholeheartedly in the flames of youth, a philosophy that could inspire great strength but also drove many to the edge of their limits. He often pushed his students beyond what they thought was possible, leading to both great growth and moments of sheer madness. Recalling an image of Guy performing his signature pose, a warm smile spread across Naruto's face. He closed his eyes, focused, and then summoned the transformation technique. A swirl of chakra enveloped him, and in an instant, he stood before his friends as a perfect replica of Might Guy. The green outfit hugged his body, and his wild, enthusiastic demeanor matched that of his idol. Believe it! Naruto shouted, striking the nice guy pose with exaggerated flair. His voice echoed with the same infectious energy that Guy was known for. I am Might Guy, the eternal youth. We must train hard and embrace the flames of youth. The faces around him were a mix of surprise and amusement. Izuku's eyes widened as he took in the transformation. Is that really what he sounds like? He asked, trying to keep a straight face. Of course it is. Naruto responded with a big grin. It's all about passion and dedication. You have to feel the energy within. Nana chuckled softly, watching the display with a blend of admiration and disbelief. You really capture his spirit, Naruto. But was it really necessary to imitate him right now? Toshinori leaned in, intrigued. You have to admit, Guy's methods can be memorable, but they aren't for everyone. Would you want someone training you like that? Naruto paused, contemplating the question. It would be a challenge, no doubt. But I think that's what makes it exciting. Pushing yourself beyond the limit, it's how you grow. Gran Torino's expression was thoughtful. He'd seen various training styles over the years. Sometimes, pushing too hard can lead to burnout, kid. Balance is key. Naruto shook his head, still in character. No. You have to embrace the struggle. It's all part of becoming stronger. As he spoke, the atmosphere shifted. The playful banter sparked a debate about what it meant to train effectively. Izuku nodded in agreement. I think both methods have their merits. It's important to push yourself, but learning to harness that energy safely is crucial. Gran Torino raised an eyebrow, so you think you can handle his training? Absolutely. Naruto declared, his enthusiasm filling the room. I've faced worse. Plus, imagine how strong I'd become. Let's hope you don't lose your mind along the way, Nana teased, a smile on her lips. Laughter broke out, easing the tension. Despite their different backgrounds, they understood that training was as much about mindset as it was about physical ability. For Naruto, invoking Might Guy's spirit reminded him of the unyielding pursuit of strength and growth. Alright. Let's set some goals, then. Gran Torino said, a spark igniting in his eyes. But remember, youth isn't just about strength. It's also about wisdom. As they began to discuss training goals, Naruto felt the excitement bubbling within him once again. No matter the challenges that lay ahead, he was ready to face them, with the spirit of Might Guy lighting the way. Sasuke stood there, shaking his head in disbelief at the outrageous idea presented before him. "You see what I mean?" he said, gesturing expressively. He recalled Might Guy, full of energy and sometimes absurdity, making bold proclamations. It was always something over the top that no one could forget. Remember how he'd say, "If my students fail, I will walk around the village with only my thumbs." Sasuke couldn't help but chuckle at the exaggeration. Might Guy pushed himself beyond limits most would deem impossible. His training methods were grueling, pushing his body to extremes few could withstand. Each session was a test of endurance, strength, and sheer will. Sasuke thought of Rock Lee, Guy's devoted student. The poor kid had dedicated his life to training, emulating Guy in every way. Even after all the strain and injuries, Rock Lee would wake up early, ready to train again. But in doing so, he transformed into a mirror image of his mentor, adopting not only Guy's strength but his oddly exuberant personality too. "Lee's always quick to jump into a fight, just like Guy," Sasuke said, voice laced with both admiration and worry. His gaze drifted to the horizon as if searching for an answer. But he never really recovered from all that training. It's like he traded his own identity for Guy's. Sasuke remembered times when Rock Lee would push himself so hard that he seemed to forget his own limits, ignoring the warnings from friends. "It makes me think," he continued, a hint of concern threading through his words, "no matter how tough Gran Torino pushes Toshinori, it can't possibly compare to what Might Guy would have put anyone through. That level of pressure seems unbearable." Another voice broke in, "But aren't boundaries meant to be crossed? Isn't that how we grow?" Sakura chimed in, crossing her arms. She had been listening intently and wanted to challenge Sasuke's perspective. Sasuke turned to face her, his expression serious. "Growth shouldn't come at the expense of one's well-being," he replied. "I've seen the toll it has taken on Lee. It isn't just physical, it's mental too. There are limits for a reason. Gran Torino is tough, but he knows when to let up," Sakura countered. "He won't push Toshinori so far that he loses himself. Just because Might Guy went to extremes doesn't mean everyone else should." Sasuke nodded slowly, acknowledging her point. Their debate reflected a deeper concern about the balance between toughness and care in training. "I get that," he said thoughtfully. "But in the end, it comes down to what works for each of us. Maybe the difference is knowing our own limits while training, no matter who our teachers are." The sun began to set behind the trees, casting long shadows. Sasuke felt a weight lift as he discussed the issue. It wasn't just about training, it was about friendship and support. They all needed each other to keep balance amid challenges. As they stood there, he couldn't help but feel a sense of camaraderie, knowing that together they would navigate the demanding world they faced. After a full year spent training in the hyperbolic time dungeon, Izukumidoriya emerged with a body that was more stable than ever. The intense training had honed his skills, allowing him to HRNSS his quirk more effectively. This was not just any training, he had inherited abilities from the previous Dread Pirate Roberts. Two standout abilities had a profound impact on him. The first was called Sharpshooter. This skill ensured that any weapon Izuku wielded would hit its target with pinpoint accuracy, regardless of how far away it was or whether he could physically see it. The second ability, Weapon Mastery, allowed him to use any weapon as if he possessed years of experience. These two abilities turned out to be crucial. Some aspects of One for All could be treated as weapons, and being able to strike true transformed Izuku's training. His training sessions became incredibly efficient, particularly when it came to melee combat. With sharpshooter backing him, he could focus on technique without the worry of missing his targets. Most individuals might assume that Izuku would grumble about the grueling schedule and the pain it caused him. Surprisingly, it was All Might who acted like a spoiled child. Izuku accepted every challenge given to him without question. He didn't waver when Nana gave him specific tasks for physical training or informed him about skills he needed to develop. Yes, Nana, he would reply earnestly, ready to work hard and improve. All Might, in contrast, took a different approach. He openly resisted Nana's guidance, insisting that he was capable of training without help. "I'm an adult," he declared, puffing out his chest. But Gran Torino quickly interrupted, pointing out the irony. "If you're such a training expert, how did All for One manage to injure you so badly?" The question hung in the air, and All Might had no defense. Nana, with her no-nonsense attitude, joined the conversation. "I'm going to train you so those injuries never happen again," she announced firmly. At first, All Might accepted this challenge. The training was tough, but he managed to keep up for a couple of months. However, after 3 months of rigorous training, he snapped. He accused Nana of being All for One's daughter because her strict demands felt unbearable. "I thought you'd be softer, especially since you're a grandmother to so many," he complained, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Nana's eyes widened in shock, and rage simmered beneath her calm exterior. Breathing deeply, she struggled to collect her thoughts. Anger would not help her in this situation. But the disrespect couldn't go unpunished. She decided to double the intensity of the training sessions in retaliation for his first comment. The second comment was even worse, implying she was somehow old and past her prime. For that, she tripled the workload. Later that night, Izuku couldn't help but overhear Nana muttering under her breath. "He thinks I'm too old for this. We'll see about that." The atmosphere was thick with tension. Izuku looked from Nana to All Might, sensing the impending storm. He felt caught in the middle. "Maybe we should focus on teamwork," he suggested hesitantly, wanting to lighten the mood. All Might turned to him, his expression softening slightly. "You're right, Izuku. We should work together." But there was a fire in his eyes that suggested he wasn't ready to back down completely. Nana crossed her arms, an unwavering look on her face. "Teamwork is earned, All Might. You respect the training, you respect me. That's how this works." The argument spiraled, but deep down, Izuku knew they would eventually reach an understanding. He watched both mentors, both strong in their own right, and hoped that through the heat of their conflict, they would emerge stronger together. The training would continue, but so would the clash of wills, and Izuku was determined to navigate through it, hopeful that everyone would grow in the process. Naruto and Sasuke dedicated time to helping Izuku learn how to manage his stamina and power more effectively. Their experience as ninjas came in handy. They shared training techniques with him, revealing how they used chakra exercises to enhance their abilities. Watching Izuku struggle, they recognized that he needed their guidance. As he practiced, Izuku quickly noticed a significant change. He could use his quirk with much less difficulty, feeling less exhausted after each attempt. However, Naruto had a warning for him. "If you keep pouring all your strength into just one arm," he said with a serious tone, "that limb will give out under the pressure. You risk breaking it." Naruto's eyes were firm, but there was a warmth in his voice that made Izuku feel supported. He nodded, taking in the weight of Naruto's words. Naruto leaned forward, eager to help Izuku understand. "Picture your quirk like an energy field, not just focused on one limb. Imagine it surrounding your whole body." His hands gestured outward as he spoke, illustrating the concept he wanted to convey. By distributing the energy, you can reinforce not just your striking arm, but also your entire body. This way, you'll lessen the chance of injury. Sasuke stood nearby, arms crossed, nodding in agreement. "It's like wearing armor," he added, his voice low but steady. "You need to create a barrier that protects you. Izuku felt a spark of excitement as he envisioned it. This idea of energy flowing through him like a protective shield was inspiring. Naruto continued, his enthusiasm infectious. Think of it like a cloth wrapping around you, he said. From head to toe, like a superhero's full-body cowl. The idea of being wrapped in power filled Izuku with determination. He could feel the energy starting to shift within him. That way, Naruto explained, when you punch, your entire form supports the strike. Izuku's mind raced. He imagined the vibrant blue energy of his quirk flooding his body, reinforcing him like a suit of armor. So, I just have to visualize it spreading, right? He asked, eager to try it out. Exactly, said Naruto, encouraging him. Visualize it every time you practice. Wrap yourself in that power. The words motivated Izuku, igniting a drive within him. He could picture himself striking, not just with the force of one arm, but with the strength of his entire being. Sasuke chimed in, remember, it takes time to mstr this. Don't rush it. There was a hint of seriousness in his voice, reminding Izuku that growth doesn't happen overnight. Izuku nodded, appreciating the advice. He felt both nervous and excited. As they trained together, challenges emerged. At one point, Izuku focused too hard on visualizing his power. He overextended, resulting in a painful strain on his shoulder. Wincing, he fell to one knee. Naruto rushed over, Izuku. You need to relax. This isn't about brute force, it's about control. Izuku bit his lip, frustration bubbling inside him. I just want to get stronger, he exclaimed, the disappointment clear in his voice. Sasuke placed a hand on his shoulder. Getting stronger takes patience. You can't force it. You have to feel it. His calm demeanor helped soothe Izuku's stress. Taking a deep breath, Izuku closed his eyes, allowing the tension to fade. He focused on the lessons from Naruto and Sasuke, understanding that mastery didn't just come from effort but from understanding and adapting. Determined, he stood back up, ready to try again. As the day wore on, the training sessions continued, filled with encouragement, challenges, and breakthroughs. With each attempt, Izuku felt a little more confident, a little more like a hero. And with Naruto and Sasuke by his side, he knew he was on the right path to harnessing his power effectively. The journey was just beginning. At last, the training session concluded, and Toshinori felt an overwhelming sense of relief and joy. He couldn't help but rejoice aloud, a euphoric chant of freedom spilling from his lips as he embraced the moment. Free at last. Thank God Almighty, I am free at last. Izuku, his student, had finally overcome the negative effects tied to his quirk and the inherited abilities from the previous Dread Pirate Roberts. This achievement marked an impressive milestone in their journey, turning what could have been a challenging day into an incredibly productive one. After a full day of pushing limits and honing skills, Toshinori decided it was time to treat himself. He craved comfort, a reward for all the hard work. His thoughts drifted to his favorite ramen shop, a cozy little place conveniently located near his old karate dojo. This spot had seen countless meals shared with friends and many moments of reflection. Feeling hungry enough to eat for 2, or maybe even 3, he ordered his usual ramen but tripled the portion. With an added pitcher of tangy lemonade, his meal felt like a celebration. When Masha, the friendly waitress, noticed the large order, her eyes widened in surprise. Are you feeding a group of friends today? She asked playfully, raising an eyebrow. Izuku chuckled, shaking his head. Nope, all of this is for me, he replied, a grin spreading across his face. I don't know why, but I'm starving. Masha smiled knowingly, pouring his lemonade with an easy grace. You must have really worked up an appetite. My mom always says when you train hard, you earn your meals. As he began to dig into the steaming bowl of ramen, Izuku couldn't help but feel a strange flicker of curiosity. He turned to Masha, his mind racing. You know, I've been thinking about your quirk. It's not just a tale, is it? Masha tilted her head, intrigued. What do you mean? Well, he pondered, trying to string his thoughts into words. I think you might be unconsciously directing your quirk to your backbone. That's what's making the tail appear. But if you ever let it flow throughout your whole body, he trailed off, imagining the possibilities. You could change into something massive, like a powerful animal. Maybe something from the lion family, considering how your tail looks. Masha laughed, a melodic sound that filled the small space. You're still doing this? Trying to figure out quirks like we did when we were kids? I can't help it, Izuku admitted, his eyes sparkling with excitement. There's so much potential in quirks. They're like puzzles waiting to be solved. Masha rolled her eyes with a teasing smile. You should be careful. Some puzzles can be dangerous. I know, he replied, a hint of seriousness creeping into his voice. But understanding them could help us grow stronger. And isn't that the point? Their conversation flowed naturally, mixing light-hearted jests with deeper thoughts about their abilities and responsibilities. As Izuku continued to eat, he felt grateful for this moment of camaraderie. The world outside may have been filled with challenges, but here, surrounded by laughter and warmth, everything felt right. As he finished his first bowl and started on the second, the weight of the day melted away. Even if he didn't finish the monumental order, the restaurant would pack up leftovers for him to take home. Many customers often forgot their containers or kept them without a second thought, but Masha's mother always made sure to take care of her loyal patrons. With each bite, Izuku relished the blend of flavors, finding comfort in the familiarity of the dish. Masha watched him with amusement, her smile bright. Their shared history became a thread woven through their conversation, linking their past with their present ambitions. Izuku knew they would face whatever awaited them together, as friends, united by their quirks and the challenges of what lay ahead. Eiko listened to Izuku, unable to suppress a laugh. You really are something, she teased playfully. It takes a certain kind of strength to be so manly, doing exactly what you want, regardless of what others think. Her smile faded slightly as she pondered the implications of his behavior. But have you ever wondered if the people you've helped actually appreciate what you do? I mean, do they ever push back or show any ingratitude? Izuku nodded thoughtfully, taking a moment to reflect. You know, it's hard to say. People can be ungrateful sometimes, but I believe in trying to help. Like what you've done with your hardening quirk. That must be challenging. Eiko's eyes lit up. I remember before we talked, I struggled to find clothes that didn't tear apart as soon as I put them on. I felt like a walking disaster. But after you gave me that advice, everything changed. Now I feel so much better and more comfortable in my own skin. Eiko leaned against the side of a tree, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, grateful for the changes in her life. It's funny, really. You think we have these amazing powers, but they often make life difficult. Just like that professional hero you mentioned, the one in a space suit. Izuku sighed. Yeah, she has a powerful quirk that requires a suit just to function normally. It's tough. Then there's this girl I know. Most of the time, she's invisible. It's isolating for her. She shouldn't have to hide. Everyone should be able to see her smile, feel her energy. Eiko looked thoughtful. But what can you do for her? It sounds like you're trying to help. I am, Izuku replied, his determination evident in his voice. I'm working hard to understand her quirk better. I want to help her find some control. I want her to feel confident stepping into the light, even if it's just a little at a time. Eiko's heart swelled at Izuku's passion. You really care about people. That's special, you know. But sometimes, it's frustrating, he admitted. You put in the effort, and not every situation ends well. I've faced people who don't want help or think they don't need it. It makes me question if I'm making a difference. Eiko reached out, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You're definitely making a difference. We just have to keep pushing forward, even when it feels hard. That's what heroes do. Izuku gave a small smile, feeling buoyed by her words. Thanks for saying that. I guess everyone struggles in their own way, even if their quirks seem cool. He glanced at Eiko, his eyes reflecting a mix of hope and uncertainty. You're a perfect example of that. Maybe, Eiko said lightly, brushing a strand of hair back. But I wouldn't trade my quirk for anything else. It's given me strength and the chance to meet incredible people like you. Her voice softened. Izuku felt warmth flood through him. The bond they shared was growing stronger. We'll keep fighting through the challenges together. No matter how many quirks we have, we can find ways to connect, right? Eiko nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. Let's make sure everyone, invisible or not, knows they're valued. It'll be our mission. Izuku smiled widely, feeling reinvigorated by the thought. Together, they could face whatever came their way. Both Nasha Ojiro and Eiko Kurashima exchanged glances, a mixture of curiosity and mischief dancing in their eyes. The cozy atmosphere of Nasha's family ramen shop buzzed around them, steam rising from bowls of rich broth. Spicy noodles twirled around Izuku's chopsticks as he took a hearty bite, completely unaware of the storm brewing in their minds. Hey, Izuku, Nasha began, her voice casual but laced with intrigue. We have to know. Are you dating Mei Hatsum? The question hung in the air like a thick fog, wrapping around Izuku and making him choke on his ramen. He coughed a bit, eyes wide, as he spluttered out his answer. No, that's not happening, he exclaimed, pushing his bowl aside. A faint blush crept onto his cheeks, mixing embarrassment with relief. Eiko raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. Really? She probed, leaning closer, her brown eyes shining with mischief. Because we heard some things. Izuku felt the heat rising in his face. I'm just helping her with her inventions. You know how Mei is. She's brilliant with tech. He shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. The mere thought of being linked to Mei in that way sent shivers down his spine, despite his respect for her talent. Helping her, huh? Nasha teased, unable to hide her grin. You sure it's just that? I mean, she did call her inventions her babies. Doesn't that sound NTMT? The word hung between them, each syllable heavy with implication. Izuku shook his head vehemently, a mix of panic and embarrassment bubbling inside him. It's not like that. I'm just offering a second opinion on her stuff. She lets me come to her family's garage to see what she's working on. That's all. He shrugged, but the thought of Mei referring to her gadgets as her babies made him fidget. Eiko smirked, crossing her arms as she leaned back in her chair. Izuku, you're blushing. Are you telling us you're not at least a little flattered? It's different, he mumbled, staring at the remnants of his ramen. She wants to create gear for heroes. It's incredible what she does. The admiration in his voice was clear. Mei had a vision, one that could change how heroes approached battles. The idea excited him, yet the swirling feelings left him confused. Sounds to me like you think she's something special. Maybe you ought to admit it, Nasha chimed in. The lightness in her voice contrasted sharply with Izuku's growing internal conflict. Izuku sighed, running a hand through his messy green hair. I don't know what to think. She's talented and passionate, sure. But I'm just me. Eiko leaned in, sensing the storm within him. You're not just you. You're going to be a hero. Sometimes those paths cross, you know. Their words echoed in his mind, but he quickly pushed them aside. We're friends. That's it. He glanced out the window, watching the busy streets of Mizudofu. The world beyond felt distant, an unrelated backdrop to his internal struggle. As the girls continued to press him with playful jabs, Izuku couldn't shake the slight irritation building inside him. It wasn't just about Mei Hatsum. It was about the expectations, assumptions, and the pressure of being a hero. The ramen shop's warmth felt stifling at that moment, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. "Look, it's good to help her," Nasha said, breaking through his thoughts. "But don't forget to take care of your own feelings too. Or maybe you should just plan a date." Eiko joined in, a teasing grin lighting her features. Izuku rolled his eyes, trying to brush off the comments. All right. Enough about May. Can we just eat?" The laughter and teasing continued, but the topic left Izuku feeling unsettled. A mixture of irritation and intrigue lingered in his mind as he slurped the last of his ramen, still grappling with the weight of their questions. The morning sun, still a pale blush against the sky, streamed through Izuku's window. He stretched, his muscles humming with anticipation for the day's training. The familiar scent of his mother's cooking, a blend of eggs and toast, wafted from downstairs. Today felt different. A month. 1 month until the UA entrance exams. The thought sparked a flicker of nervous energy, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce resolve. He made his way to the kitchen, where his mother, Inko, was already bustling. She turned, her smile warm, a dish towel in her hand. "Morning, Izuku. Getting ready for your usual route?" Izuku nodded, a confident grin spreading across his face. "Yep. Gotta keep the engine running, Mom." Inko's brow furrowed slightly, a hint of motherly concern in her eyes. "Remember. Darling, the UA entrance exam is just 1 month away. You've finished your training at the beach. What's your plan now?" He met her gaze, his own brimming with purpose. "I'm going to keep training, Mom. Every day. This morning jog is just the start. I can't skip it." He gestured towards the door, already feeling the pull of the open air. "Gotta be ready for anything." Inko chuckled, a light, melodic sound. "That's my boy. Just be sure to take your cell phone and wallet. You never know." She paused, her voice softening. "And be back before lunch. Yuko's trying out a new recipe. She's really excited about it." Izuku's smile widened. His stepmother, Yuko, was a whirlwind of culinary creativity. He could already imagine the delicious chaos that would ensue. "I'll be back, Mom. I'll even help Yuko with her new dish." "Sounds fun." Inko beamed, her eyes sparkling. "That's wonderful, Izuku. I know Yuko will appreciate that." As Izuku laced up his running shoes, he felt a surge of gratitude. His family was his anchor. He pushed open the front door, the cool morning air invigorating him. The city was slowly waking up, the streets still quiet. His chosen route wound through a local park, a familiar path he'd run countless times. Today, however, each stride felt more significant. He pictured the UA campus, a place of legend. He imagined the sheer power and skill of the heroes who walked its halls. He wasn't just running, he was forging himself into a weapon, honing every fiber of his being. He remembered the sheer exhaustion of his beach training, the burning in his muscles, the constant battle against his own limitations. He'd cleared debris, pushed heavy objects, and endured grueling physical conditioning. It had been brutal, but it had also been transformative. He felt stronger, faster, and more resilient than ever before. But the beach was just one aspect of hero training. The entrance exam would demand more. It would test his quick thinking, his ability to adapt, and his understanding of hero principles. He'd spent hours poring over hero analysis notebooks, dissecting battle strategies, and studying the quirks of every hero he admired. He knew the theory, but now he needed to bridge the gap between knowledge and application. His mind drifted to a recent sparring session he'd had with a more experienced trainee at the beach. The trainee, a young man named Kenji with a lightning-based quirk, had been relentless. Izuku had been knocked down multiple times, his body aching, his pride bruised. Kenji's attacks were a blur, lightning crackling around his fists. Izuku had struggled to even see the movements, let alone react. In one particularly brutal exchange, Kenji had unleashed a rapid-fire barrage of punches, each one laced with electricity. Izuku had managed to dodge the first few, his reflexes honed by sheer desperation. But the fourth strike had connected, a searing jolt coursing through his arm. He'd stumbled back, his vision swimming. "Come on, Deku." Kenji had taunted, his voice laced with an almost playful cruelty. "Is that all you've got? You're just a Deku. A useless quirkless nobody." The insult, though familiar, stung. It was a reminder of the whispers, the doubts, the constant underestimation. But instead of succumbing to despair, Izuku had felt a different kind of fire ignite within him. He'd seen an opening, a fraction of a second where Kenji's guard had faltered. Ignoring the throbbing pain in his arm, Izuku had lunged forward, channeling all his remaining strength into a single, focused kick. It wasn't a powerful blow, but it was enough to catch Kenji off balance. As Kenji stumbled, Izuku seized the moment. He launched into a series of evasive maneuvers, his movements fluid and unpredictable. He was no longer just reacting, he was creating his own rhythm. He used the uneven terrain of the beach to his advantage, ducking behind overturned logs and using the sand to obscure his movements. Kenji, frustrated, began to lash out wildly, his lightning attacks becoming less precise. Izuku saw his chance. As Kenji unleashed a wide, arcing blast of electricity, Izuku sprinted towards him, sliding low to the ground. He aimed for Kenji's legs, a risky move that could leave him vulnerable. His hands, calloused and strong from countless hours of work, gripped Kenji's ankles. With a surge of power, Izuku pulled, sending Kenji tumbling into the sand. The lightning sputtered out as Kenji hit the ground, momentarily stunned. Izuku hadn't won the sparring match outright. Kenji had recovered quickly, and the fight had continued, eventually ending in a draw. But for Izuku, it was a victory. He had faced his fears, overcome his limitations, and proven to himself that he could stand toe-to-toe with those who underestimated him. He had learned that even without a flashy quirk, strategy, determination, and a deep understanding of combat could be just as effective. He ran past a playground, children's laughter echoing in the distance. He remembered his own childhood, the dreams he'd harbored, the sting of being told those dreams were impossible. But that was then. Now, he had a tangible goal, a path laid out before him. His mind returned to the UA entrance exam. He knew it would involve a series of challenges, including a practical test to assess combat abilities. He'd heard rumors of a mock battle scenario where applicants would face robotic opponents, each with different power levels. The key, he'd surmised from his analysis, would be not just raw strength, but intelligence and adaptability. He had to be able to analyze the robots, identify their weaknesses, and exploit them efficiently. He reached a steep hill, a familiar test of his endurance. He pushed himself harder, his lungs burning, his legs pumping with renewed vigor. He imagined the cheers of the crowd, the adulation of heroes, the feeling of making a difference. This was what he was fighting for. As he neared home, the scent of cooking grew stronger. Yuko's culinary experiments often filled the entire neighborhood. He could practically taste the anticipation. He slowed his pace, allowing his heart rate to return to normal. He had a month. A month to prove himself. A month to show the world what a quirkless kid could do. He rounded the final corner, his house in sight. The sun was higher now, casting long shadows. The day had just begun. Izukumidoriya found himself in a familiar position. He was once again surrounded by hopefuls. They were all aiming for the prestigious UA high school. Many were his future classmates. Others were strangers. They simply wanted a shot at becoming heroes. Whispers filled the air. The UA entrance exam was known for its difficulty. It was a brutal gauntlet. Fear was a palpable thing among them. But Izuku's presence seemed to calm them. He offered words of encouragement. "You can do it," he'd say. "Follow your dream. Become a hero. His earnest belief was infectious. He saw the doubt in their eyes. He knew that feeling well. He wanted them to have a chance. He wanted them to try. A small group of girls approached him. They stood nervously. Their hands twisted their sleeves. "Izuku," one started, her voice barely a whisper. "My quirk isn't really for fighting. I don't think I can pass." Another chimed in, her head bowed. "Mine is the same. It's not strong or flashy." Izuku listened intently. He didn't dismiss their concerns. He simply smiled. "Show me," he urged them gently. "Use your quirk. Just once." He wanted to see it. He needed to understand. The first girl hesitated. Then, with a small breath, she extended her hand. A faint shimmer appeared. It was like heat haze rising from the pavement. Her quirk allowed her to create minor illusions. Small, fleeting images. They weren't powerful. They wouldn't win a fight. Izuku's eyes widened. His mind began to whir. It was like a switch had been flipped. His analysis mode is activated. He started speaking. His words tumbled out. They were rapid fire. To most, it sounded like a low mutter. He was dissecting her quirk. He was seeing its potential. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hector Flores on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.